and always will, is about moving humanity forward. And remember, folks, every act of kindness is a little love we leave behind. Hey, folks, the man with the pinky ring and the New York thing, forget about it. Bad Brad Berkwitt. And you're watching another Moving Humanity Forward panel on the Bad Brad Berkwitt Show. So, folks, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Bad Brad RSR. Again, that's at Bad Brad RSR. And check out my great writing team. Lots of diversity on ringsidereport.com. Well, my panelists today on my fifth Moving Humanity Forward panel are Senator Heidi Campbell from the state of Tennessee, Democrat. From Colorado, write-in candidate and unaffiliated moderate conservative running in CD3, and that's Marina Zimmerman. And finally, last but not least, from the state of Tennessee and another Democrat, Representative Gloria Johnson. And if all three of those names sound familiar, that's because each of these ladies have been on my show for a 360 conversation. So check out those as well. And remember, folks, this is my fifth Moving Humanity Forward panel. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's get right into this Moving Humanity Forward panel. Forget about it. All right. Well, first of all, good morning to everybody in your different time zones, and welcome to my fifth Moving Humanity Forward panel. And thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Great to be here.
I love that I could see out the back of your window there, Heidi. Nice shot there, the greenery, very nice. We got Marilyn Monroe and Audrey Hepburn. I know that from our last show, two of my favorites. And Gloria, we got the nice background with you as well with the tree. Oh, here we go. There we go. Who's the painting? So if Room Raiders hits this up, who's the painting? That's not Calamity Jane. Who is that?
Just a Mexican cowboy girl.
I was a little bit off.
Actually got it in Colorado when I lived there.
Oh, there you
nice.
go.
You lived here. Oh, wow, nice. Where did you live?
I was born there. So.
I was. I was.
Where?
Denver.
Yeah, I was born in Denver, Wheat Ridge specifically. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm on the other side of the mountains. I'm in Arborlees over by Durango and Pagosa Springs.
Yeah.
Well, look at that. Already we got common ground. Two Democrats and unaffiliated, moderate conservative, all from the state of Colorado. We're not going to say who's the other person there. We don't want to give her any plugs on this show, but trust me, my viewers know, and they know my sentiments about that particular person, that true patriot not, and very religious not person. Okay, with that said, let's go right into the questions. I'll throw them out to the panel and let's do it that way. First question comes from Marina, and it's, in order to move humanity forward, what do we need more of? Wisdom, intelligence, compassion, empathy, or something else? And I want to give that to Gloria.
I'd like to see courage. I would like to see political courage. I think that's something that we are not seeing right now. We're seeing people play to the party and, back someone even when it's wrong, instead of standing up and fighting for this country and fighting for democracy and fighting for what's right. So certainly we need empathy and integrity and all of those other things. But right now, I think what we're sorely lacking is the courage and stand up for your convictions when you know what is right. It's not about left and right. It's about right and wrong. And so standing up for what is right.
Okay. Hey, do you want to add anything to that, Heidi, or no?
Yeah, actually, I mean, I think that's a great answer. I'd also say that I agree with all of the things that the question said, but I also think we need grit, awareness, and responsibility. I think a lot of people on our side are not paying attention, and I think people have kind of either given up or are sort of in their own bubble and feel like are not aware of the gravity of the situation and are not out there working for it. Democracy is hard work. And so I think everybody needs to get up and get to work.
Okay. Next
Absolutely.
question. Next question comes from you, Heidi. And I, if I pronounce this wrong, correct me, because I see everybody saying it now. Given the situation that we're in with do you say Christocentric? How do you say that? Christocentric. Okay, because I see that a lot. I see hashtag with that. Centric activist court that has a clear majority for the foreseeable future. What would you suggest, if any, are our possible remedies? Are you in favor of packing the courts? And I want to give that question to Marina.
You know, being conservative, I have thought in the past that, you know, packing the court, you know, not such a good idea. But then I really researched it, because when I hear other people talk and I get other people's opinions, I really like to say, hey, you know, maybe I don't know everything. Maybe this is just something that I come up with, or, you know, been brought up with. Maybe this is a wrong-headed idea. So I did some research into it and realized that, you know, according to the circuit courts, we now have 13, you know, and we have changed the seats on the court before, and it seems to go with the circuit courts. So I've changed my opinion of that. And I think to get a more balanced court, and when you add the urgency with this, you know, trying so desperately to turn us into a theocracy, an authoritarian theocracy, I do think now that we may need to, you know, expand it to 13.
Okay. Gloria, do you want to expand on that?
You know, I would just say that I agree. And I also appreciate someone who has been thoughtful and changes their position after researching and all of that. I think that she's exactly right. People do kind of get dug in. Well, this is all the way it's always been. Why would we change it? And then looking at the larger scope and historically what we've seen, I want to see more of that. To me, it takes courage to research and revisit what you once thought. And so it's kind of what I'm talking about, and absolutely.
Okay, let me ask you this question off of that, because I think it's important, and the viewers, and I know my followers talk about this, so I want to ask all three of you this. You saw that Gorsuch, Coney Barrett, and Kavanaugh all basically lied under oath and said they wouldn't touch Roe versus Wade. I don't know the exact legal terminology of it, but they wouldn't basically touch it, is what they said. And they all went back and voted to overturn it. The outcry is, I had on my last panel, Pam Keith and Sherry Jacobus, and the outcry is for them to be impeached. Now, they probably wouldn't be impeached. I don't know how that would work with Supreme Court justices. It's above my pay grade, but I don't think it would make it through the Senate. But still, because they lied under oath, something should be done. What do you think should be done? I want to ask all three of you that. I'll start with Heidi. What do you think should be done, since they did lie, and it is on recording? They had been videotaped, and they raised their hand and all of that. So they lied. They lied.
Right.
So what do you think should be done, Heidi?
So I think it's a difficult legal argument to make, because it's stare decisis. And basically, instead of saying specifically that they would not vote to overturn it, they referenced stare decisis, which is that it's settled law. But the Supreme Court has predicated their argument on right to privacy. And it'd be very difficult, I think, to pin that to them effectively. And I think that it might be something that, just especially since we have a situation where the courts have been packed, and, you know, we have a lot of people that are, activists, that it would be a difficult argument to make. And I think a lot of times we go down these procedural routes that take up a lot of time. I mean, I remember really, really feeling that with Trump's impeachment and how long that took. So, I mean, I think that this is a time to make just aggressive legislative moves relative to Roe, relative to packing the courts and those sorts of things, because we're in an existential crisis. I mean, our democracy is on the brink. And so I don't think that we have time to enter into the bureaucratic norms that we usually use to address these sorts of things, because that is being weaponized against us.
Okay. Maria, what do you think?
Well, I think, it's absolutely correct to expect, for them to be held accountable for perjury. I think that Heidi is exactly right. We don't have the time. However, can we accomplish any legislative, anything to correct it? Can we actually get it done? And it seems like while, the Dems have the majorities, it just seems like the Republican core, that extremist, even though they're a minority, seem to be able to block and stop everything from happening. Is there anything that we can logically accomplish there either? I mean, something has to be done. But I'm not sure what can be done.
Okay. Gloria, would you like to expand on that?
I just feel like it's one of those areas that may be too gray for the public to understand and for the process to take place. I do get that. But something else that's always bothered me, and this play like at a level we've never seen before, is lying. And I'll talk to people all the time and they'll say, well, politicians lie. We expect that. We need to stop expecting our politicians to lie.
Yes.
And our Supreme Court justices. And so I think we need to spend a lot more time pointing out those lies and saying this is not acceptable. And we should not be expecting our politicians to lie to us. But I think it is really just accepted right now. And we have to turn that around, because there's no reason they should be held to a higher level of the truth. And certainly justices should be held to a higher level when it comes to the truth. And so I think we've got to keep making that clear so that people will want something better when they go to the polls.
Okay.
Right. And may I just one little comment? When I think about it, I have never really thought anything, not 2 seconds, about doubting the Supreme Court, about it's just always been built in that, well, it's the Supreme Court. Well, they're going to make the best decisions, and they're going to really direct us in the right. And I don't know that I ever even thought it in those terms, but I just somehow knew it. And I was really shocked to suddenly say, oh my gosh, they're lying. They lied, and they're steering the country in a terrible place, and we don't trust them anymore. I was shocked to actually put those into words.
Right.
Go ahead, Heidi. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to, absolutely. I mean, 100% agree with that. That is just alarming. And Sheldon Whitehouse had this wonderful presentation that he warned us. I love Sheldon Whitehouse. He warned us, and he said, here is what's going on. There's dark money. And he showed us exactly how the Council for National Policy has been spending money to groom Supreme Court justices. And they had a job, and they had a directive, and they were told to go in there and do whatever it took to make sure that they got on the bench so that they could perform this duty. And next is going to be Obergefell, and next is going, there's a long list of taking away our rights that's about to take place. And this is part of a bigger plan. And this is war. I mean, they are at war with our democracy. So, I mean, it's like we cannot count on those norms of thinking that, and I agree with you completely. The Supreme Court has they've ruined the integrity of the Supreme Court.
They have. I got to ask you one more thing. Yes or no? I just asked all three of you real quick this question. I've said this to Debbie many times, and I believe. I can't prove it, but I believe it. And I always say you bet a horse on past performances, how they ran on this track or that track, and then you put your money down. I could envision Trump telling each one of those justices in a closed door where he didn't feel anything was recorded or any, well, I know the Nixon recorded, but where no one could hear. And he said, I'm going to nominate you, but you're going to owe me. Yes or no, do you think he could do?
Oh.
He did that. I did 3. Yes, right? I mean, I guess it's a no-brainer, but I mean, and I'm not saying it to be funny. I mean, I literally could see him saying each one, you're going to owe me this, or I'm not putting you forward.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I don't think there can be any doubt about that.
Yeah. Okay.
Him and others.
Right. Okay. Next question comes from Gloria, and it says, ask, what the heck is going on with the education policy? And I want to give that great question to Heidi.
Well, I mean, so Gloria and I are very good friends, and we're dealing with this situation here in Tennessee and Gloria has been really the champion for it in our state, where our entire public education system is basically being privatized into these theocratic indoctrination program. And that sounds insane, but I'm just telling you, that's what's happening. So there's this group called Hillsdale School that our governor, who is a nightmare, has contracted with to come here and indoctrinate our children. And he was recently caught on tape in a hidden camera saying that the guy, not our governor, saying that teachers are stupid and come from the worst places and we don't even need teachers. So the whole idea of, I mean, you look at any sort of fascist country and they don't want their kids to be educated. They want their kids to be indoctrinated. And so, I mean, this is a really alarming occurrence. And I think a lot of Tennesseans don't realize that it's already happened. I mean, we can't even reverse it at this point. We voted on the education program to do it. And when our governor was held to account to denounce those statements, which are such an insult to our teachers, he was just completely quiet, and he's kind of running around avoiding reporters right now. So it's bad. It's really bad.
I think I saw, I don't know if you put up, Gloria, somebody put up a video of him being like, he didn't basically want to answer the reporter. Was that, I can't remember whose page that was, but I saw the video. Does anybody else do you want to expand on that, Marina?
Yeah. Did you say Marina or Gloria?
Yeah, no, if you want to expand, yeah, it was Gloria's question.
Please forgive me. I'm
okay.
got dry. Yes, I do. When Betsy DeVos got in there, it was no secret. And Lauren Boebert has made no secret of the fact that they want to destroy the public school system and get rid of the Department of Education. And I posted a lot about this because, in my estimation, that is to push our children into religious schools. And so I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, can I?
Absolutely, go right ahead.
When Larry Arnn from Hillsdale College made those remarks, he said, teachers were the dumbest students on the dumbest universities. He said that that education would destroy generations. He said that anyone can teach. And he wasn't talking about Tennessee. He was talking about the entire country. Ron DeSantis in Florida is also using Hillsdale College. We're seeing it everywhere. And Marina mentioned Betsy DeVos. Betsy DeVos' brother went to Hillsdale College. So this is all connected. It's all connected, and it's nationwide, and it's incredibly scary. People really need to read up and find out about this.
And I'll also add that Betsy DeVos came down here to help Lee put this program together. So Marina's absolutely right. This is all just one big program, and we're all delivering, for their cause.
Gloria, I would be remiss if I didn't say, because the viewers will leave a comment. Did your cat? I saw the cat raise the paw. Did the cat want to add something? Because the cat doesn't like DeVos either, or the college.
The cat thinks it has to be in my lap during a Zoom.
That's okay. That's okay. All right. So the next question comes from Marina, and is, how do we balance technology and humanity? And I want to give that to Gloria.
Wow.
Sorry.
No, I mean, it's really interesting. I have a love-hate relationship, it brings so much good. And I can say that with technology, I go back to education. You know, a lot of people want every classroom, every child in a classroom to have a computer and those sorts of things. But when you look at some of the best schools in the world, you see that their classrooms look like 1950s classrooms. They don't have that sort of technology in the classroom. In Finland, they just don't have it. Now they have computer labs and classrooms with that, but they don't think that every child has to have a, one-on-one device. And so many people think that that means improvement and that is going to make it better. That's really just all about having one teacher to 100 kids instead of having one teacher to 25 or 30 kids. And so, we need to make sure that we are keeping it where it's useful and not overusing. And I have to say that technology, when it comes to campaigning, is great. It really can make your campaign so much better. And then, of course, a lot of people don't love social media, which is our modern technology for communicating. But I have the most amazing contacts and meeting people and actually being able to help people with like unemployment and just services through the state that they find me on social media and get help. So I think that we just have to manage it. We have to manage that information. And there's dangerous things are happening from the technology and the way that people are able to meet, like January 6th, that we're finding out the ways that they were able to communicate. And we do have to find out what's going to work to keep everything honest. And, otherwise it can be dangerous. And we just have to be cognizant of that. And there's a fine line between too much intervention and doing nothing.
Okay. Heidi, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I'll just say I agree completely, and just add also that you have to think about the fact that this is an unregulated, just rapidly proliferating. I mean, when technology and the internet came on, it just was like the doors were open and it came rushing in, and nobody actually sat down and figured out how we were going to regulate that, which is unheard of. I mean, we did that with everything else. We did that with, print media, then radio media, then television media. The internet has the distinction of being completely, for the most part, unregulated. And to Gloria's point, I think we need to have guardrails in place so that we can promote the good and eliminate a lot of the bad, because as we know, great things happen because of it, but also the very worst things happen, and there need to be some guardrails in place.
Okay. All right. Next question comes from Heidi, and it says, a lot of Americans are moving out of our supermajority states, and some are even leaving the country. How do you think this will impact A, our geopolitical standing, and B, our national political landscape? And I want to give that to Marina.
Oh, wow, that's a tough one right there. I guess I kind of liken it to, and this may not be a good analogy, but, being in the Republican Party for a while and being really stubborn about, turning this ship around, being that rational, sane Republican, and we can do this, we can turn this ship around. And I argued with Joe Walsh, quite a bit about, well, what do you want us to do? We throw our hands up and we run away from the party. Then what? We're just giving it to the extremists. We're just giving it to them. I want to stay and fight and turn this ship around, bring this party back to a healthy a party. And Roe versus Wade came along, and then I knew that was the last straw, and I had to believe that he was right. This party is a lost cause. So I kind of liken it to that. If we throw our hands up and we run away from this issue, this problem, we move out of those states, then we can't help. We're turning it over to them. And maybe that's not the best answer or analogy, but we have to stay and fight for our democracy. We have to stay and try to encourage more people to come to those places to help fight the extremists. And that's the best answer I can think of. So.
Okay. Gloria, do you want to expand on that?
I guess it's interesting because I'm in East Tennessee. Heidi's in a little bit bluer Tennessee in Nashville. We're very red in East Tennessee. And we hear that a lot of conservative Californians are tired of California and are moving, especially to East Tennessee. So it's kind of interesting to me. And I'm a stay and fight girl, like Marina says. On the other hand, I do have friends who have transgender children and things like that. And I understand when it's just not healthy for you or your family to stay. I get that. But I think that a lot of us have that stay and fight attitude. And that's where we are. Interestingly enough, we just started early vote last Friday in Knoxville. And typically the first part of early vote are, where the Republicans all go in the first few days in early vote. And so a former Republican said to our party chair today, oh my gosh, where are all these Democrats coming from? Because they're pulling partisan ballots. And so we know who's voting. And the Democratic numbers are way up and they're kind of having a little bit of a freak out. So even though folks are coming, people are coming out going, you are not going to take away our rights.
Okay. Okay.
Good. Yeah.
All right. Next one. The next question is from Gloria again. What are major effects of the Dobbs decision in your state? So that since you guys are in different states, Heidi, go ahead and explain for your state, and then Marina follow up with Colorado with the Dobbs decision. But go ahead, Heidi, you first.
Well, first of all, I loved both Marina and Gloria's answer to that last question, because that is relative to this question, which is the stay and fight. We are, this is a trigger state, so we are in big trouble here. And not only that, kind of our media is on board with it to some degree. Our major paper here, the Tennessean, ran sort of this religious article this morning that was supposed to look like it was non-biased reporting that basically promoted the idea that we need to continue to make sure that that abortions don't happen. So it's feeling very alarming around here, and it's feeling like a lot of people are getting scared that their rights are getting taken away. And I spent yesterday, my campaign spent time with a bunch of teenagers doing a concert in front of Planned Parenthood here. And I do think that we have a lot of younger people realizing that they're going to have to get up and fight. And so I think that that's a positive thing. I think that some of the, in some ways, I kind of think it's like an alcoholic. And I'm hoping that's right, that we politically hit rock bottom and then we get our shit together. I don't know.
Do this, Heidi, too, if you would, for the viewers that don't know what the Dobbs decision is. Could you, in layman terms, could you explain what the Dobbs decision is?
Yeah, sure. Basically, effectively, it kicked back to the states the right to make abortion illegal. And we in Tennessee and a lot of other Southern super majority states had a trigger law that was set there to basically waiting for that to happen, so that when it happened, abortion was immediately illegal in our state. And so that there was a court case, but inevitably it made it functionally illegal right away. So I don't know what's going on in Colorado.
Okay.
Marina,
go ahead.
Okay, well,
yours.
Yeah. Okay. So the thing that's coming to mind, and I'm trying hard to think how it was said, was that when the decision came down to overturn Roe versus Wade, the precedents, or if you will, they used Dobbs, but Dobbs, because the constitutional issue. Well, Dobbs wasn't decided constitutionally either, was it? So, I may have that right. It wasn't a constitutional question. And so using Dobbs to justify overturning Roe versus Wade was, and I may have that wrong, so please correct, was bad was bad decision making. Do I have that right somewhere there?
Well, the question is, so basically what the court was saying in Dobbs, the Supreme Court was saying is that they felt like that should not have been the right of the Supreme Court in the past to have made that decision because that should be a state's right issue. And so they were kicking it back to the states. So functionally, they did not overturn Roe versus Wade. They just overturned the idea that the Supreme Court has precedent to make that decision, because they were saying, and the really scary thing about that is because they chose that particular route, the privacy, rights to privacy route, that means that all of these other things like interracial marriage, gay marriage, right to contraception, all of these things are now on the chopping block. And that was by design, that they went through that particular route. And so because of that, the states, which is kind of the whole idea behind the whole Council for National Policy agenda to begin with, is that they want the states to be able to make those decisions, because then the states start to duke it out. And we're seeing this right now where they're actually arguing about whether women who are pregnant can travel across state lines. And some states are writing laws right now, and I know some of our legislators, Gloria knows this too, are writing laws right now to say that pregnant women can't leave the state.
That's horrifying, for one thing. We have Colorado has a totally blue state government. So here at the moment, it's safe. They're getting prepared for other, for women to come from other states and trying to beef things up and stuff like that. Now we're about to have an election. So I don't know if the state will turn a little more red. I don't think so. I don't think the state legislature will go anywhere. So I think we're safe here for now, but I don't know. I was reading and what I was really talking about was the case Dobbs itself was not the appropriate decision, was not the appropriate case to use in the opinion that justified what they did.
Totally.
And so that's what I was, taking it to that level.
No, you're absolutely,
left field,
you're totally right about that. I mean, it was malpractice. But they don't care.
Yeah.
That's the problem. That's the problem right there, is that we're at a place where they just do what they want. And so what if I do? We've always been on the honor system, it seems like now. And the honor system is kind of caught up with us because there's no honor right now anywhere, not even in the Supreme Court. And so we're finding those holes the traditions that we've always lived by and things like that, we've always expected, finding there is no consequence. There is no anything. It's just the honor system. And when Trump came along and he said, so what if I don't?
Yeah.
And nothing was done because there isn't a mechanism. That's one of the things I think if we can get back in there, and we need to really work on getting those mechanisms, those loopholes closed and those mechanisms in place to keep this from ever happening again.
You're so right. That is so smart. I mean, I totally agree with you that if we're to look at a silver lining on this, we get out of it and it's shown us that where our weaknesses are and how to fortify our democracy so this doesn't happen again.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I agree. Okay. This comes from Marina. What will bring humanity back together? Gloria, go for it.
I think what I feel like, if we can start looking at each other as people and neighbors in our community again, and start recognizing the humanity in others, because I think so many people are so focused on themselves and that sort of thing that they're not looking at everybody in their community. I think we absolutely have that capacity. I think we were moving in that direction. And such an ugliness came in our politics and vilifying the other, because that's how they win. The only way they win is if they can divide us, and then divide us by vilifying each other. And, that plays into certain people's emotion, and we have to be better than that. And we have to recognize the humanity of every single person in our community. And they have overreached so far that I think that people are starting to see now. And one of the things in my community that is one of the biggest overreaches, I think, that in our legislature was they made being homeless a felony. And so they will pick you up if you are camping, which could mean cooking in a park, or sleeping, in a park. All of those things, they can make you a felon. So we're taking someone who is houseless, who, for whatever reason, if you make them a felon, it's going to be 100 times harder for them to find a house. It's going to be 100 times harder for them to find a job. So you're compounding this, and it's insanely expensive. This is not fiscal conservatism. We could buy everybody a house cheaper than we could afford to send them through the court systems and to prison and then take care of them afterwards because they can't find a job. It is lunacy, and it's just evil. We're going back to debtors' prisons, and what are we doing except trying to fill our private prisons? And people are seeing this, and they're talking to me on the doors. Those are the bills that they talk about the most. And I think they're starting to see, and they're looking at things differently.
I got to ask you this off of that. It's not a question that you guys came over, but I must ask for the viewers' sake. What is the Republican, what do they feel their upside is to doing something so evil? What's the upside?
It's really bizarre to me. I went to a meeting with our local delegation. We have a new police chief in the city, and someone had taken video. He answered a question, and he said, we're not going to pick up people like that and give them these felonies, and so one of our very adamant Republican members said, well, I'm seeing this 30-second video, and you're saying you're not going to enforce the laws that we pass. And the officer is trying to explain to him, and he actually did a great job. I'm very proud. Our new chief sounds smart. And he said, look, this is a brand new law, and we've got to ease people into it. We're building a new safety center for mental health. He's like, we can take them to the safety center, and we can do we have all of these other options. Why would we not do that first? And the legislator, shut up, but because the policeman, the chief did a really good job with it. But why is he just wanted people locked up? And I'll guarantee you, where he lives, he doesn't see a single homeless person in a day.
So it's evil. It's evil.
Right. And I'm looking out my window right now, and I see two. And we get along just fine.
Okay.
Go ahead. Sorry. But being in, it was actually devastating and mentally taxing to actually go to these central committee meetings, these Republican central committee meetings, and these dinners, and where the core of the extremists still believe in that the election was stolen, and they go all off into crazy town. I call it stepping into the den of the crazy. But I've heard this subject being bandied around quite a bit, and what I've gotten from it, and it takes you aback when you don't believe what they're saying. But it's those people. That's what it's all about. They don't want those people. Just like when the elites and the second and third homes in Durango and that, when they don't want trailer parks because it's those people. So they try to eliminate all the trailer parks, or they try, and they talk about affordable housing and attainable housing. Yeah, let's get that done. But at the same time, way back in the day, they were trying to remove those people. So that's really what, you really want those homeless people? You don't want those people like outside your door or your business? It's those people is what this is all about.
And let me add one more point. I think you guys will probably all agree to this or smile, because I'm sure we all watched the show. But it just popped in my head. Andy Griffith's show, right? You would see homeless people on there, and Andy would take them and they would paint the house, or they go rake leaves. Maybe it was Otis the drunk or whoever it was. Even if it wasn't Otis, but you have homeless people on there. And Andy showed them compassion, or Barney Fife. Well, Barney Fife tried to play tough guy, but in the end, Barney came around. He just trying to be tough. But Andy would, come and paint my house and I'll feed you. And here's a couple bucks. Or come rake leaves, or come clean the jail cell up, or whatever it is. And you can't tell me that back in the day that staunch Republicans in the Eisenhower years, because it started in the early 60s, or even at the end of Eisenhower term, because it would be Kennedy, but still, that Republicans didn't watch that show and were perfectly fine with those scenarios. But today, like you said, them, the others, you see how much we've changed in society. And I'm not saying it was a great time in the 60s, because we know it wasn't. But you would see that on Andy Griffin show. And today, what would they say? Oh, that's the Andy Griffin show. We can't do that. It's sad. It's sad. It's sad.
First of all, I'd like to say that I watch the Andy Griffith reruns every chance I get to this day. One of my favorite reruns to
There's
watch.
a lot of lessons to be learned on that show.
Because of
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Marina, I'm going to give you this question. I'm going to let you know in advance. It's kind of a long question. It's a good one, but it talks about Colorado, and it's from Heidi. So I'm going to give this to Marina. The Colorado River is drying up. We are experiencing record heat and much more volatile weather events in Tennessee. As periods of drought become more frequent in the West and water becomes more difficult to procure, do you think we will see national climate migration to the eastern states? If so, what kind of challenges will that present?
First, the last part of the question is, if it gets much worse, I do believe we will see a migration to the east. Here we're already, I saw pictures, and I work with this quite a bit being in Colorado. We're going into, by the year 2026, we have to have the interim guidelines for the Colorado Compact, the 1922 Colorado Compact, renegotiated and set. But that only deals with, how we let water out of Lake Mead and Lake Powell, how we go about all of that. And right now, Lake Mead is down below the pumps. So we're going to start to lose a lot of electricity for Nevada and those states. I mean, it's going to get really bad. And so I think we will see a migration to the east, because it's just so dry here in the West. The fires, although there's a lot of things we can do to mitigate, the drought, to mitigate the water situation. Some of them are expensive. They don't want to do it, and it's just so. And the result of the migration, I don't know. I don't know what that looks like. I really don't know what that looks like.
Okay. Gloria, do you want to expand on that?
I might have talked with Heidi about this, but when I lived in Denver from 2001 to 2004. And that was the first time I experienced, because, there's so much water in Tennessee. It was the first time I experienced, well, you can only wash your car or water your grass on Tuesdays or Thursdays, and that sort of thing. And that was several years back, and they were serious about it. And that was kind of my first experience with seeing what that looked like. And so I can imagine how, as it gets worse and worse, what we've got to start having solutions.
Okay.
Right, because this is not just about water. It's not just, that we're a huge agricultural state, and, most of the state is rural. And so we need that water for that, but it's about electricity for the other states as well. Like I said, when that water gets below those pumps and it can't produce electricity, there's some trouble. So it encompasses so much more than just a drink of water.
Okay. All right. Gloria has a question. It's, how do you think candidates should address the violence we see in the GOP today, or should they? And I want to give that to Heidi.
Well, I mean, that violence is serving a purpose. And going back to, first of all, like that question that we were talking about earlier in terms of the one that Marina asked about how we can model or come together and unify. I admire you so much, Marina, for your courage to become independent. I mean, that to me is really a courageous thing to do. And so bravo for doing that, because I know that's hard, because everything is so tribal right now and polarized. And that's by design. And so, I mean, to answer that question, I think that anger and that violence is being played in two entirely different stories. I mean, the people who are glued to Fox are seeing a totally different story. They're seeing us being violent, and that's what they really think. They think that we're out there burning down cities. I mean, they're seeing old footage of old riots that people are saying is happening now, and all kinds of stuff. So, I mean, it's really hard to combat that. But I think underlying all of this with the homeless and everything, we have to look at really what is the underlying problem with all of it. And to me, it's greed, because we have really gone the wrong direction in this country in terms of galvanizing and lifting up and giving power to corporations, because corporations by design are they function with a profit motive. And so when we privatize our school systems, we've already done it with our prisons here. We are putting the wrong motive parameters on these systems that are not supposed to be profitable. That's not what government's for. So we have to remind ourselves what government's for to address that violence and the volatility, because government is supposed to be an agreement that we all agree we will put money into and support into services that benefit all of us. And it's our government. And so we've let corporations take control over that by lobbying, by, all kinds of stuff. And because of that, they know that gigging up this anger, gigging up this divisiveness is lucrative and it's profitable for them. I mean, so I think that the thing to do is to regulate. That's a weird answer to that question, but I'm good for weird answers. I think the answer is to regulate corporations.
Okay. Do you want to add? Anybody want to add to that?
Yeah. I was raised in a military environment, and so this law and order thing meant a lot to me. And regulation and, that sort of thing, more order than law is. We regulate everything else. Same thing with the internet and the whole thing like that. I'm not for censorship, but we regulate things that are super harmful. We have laws and we make, so when it comes to this violence, I think that we may just have to bring the hammer down on it. We don't like it, to have to do that, but we have to regulate the violence. We have to, and commit to it. We regulate and make laws about everything else that's harmful to humans, that's harmful to us. So why not the violence that's going on and just put the hammer down on that sort of thing. And the internet, what's bad for it's so beneficial to us, but there's a lot that's harmful, that's harming us. So why can't we regulate that?
Okay. Laura, do you want to expand that? Anything? Anybody else want to add anything to that?
I guess, I do want to think about some of the things that I've just seen in campaigning that are violent. Of course, I think it's very critical that we prosecute to the fullest of the law everybody involved with January 6th. It looks like that's happening. And I'm really glad to see that happening. And I think we need to hang January 6th around our opponents' necks, because the reality is in the Tennessee state legislature, I've not heard a single Republican member condemn those acts and come out against Trump or any of those things. And I think if we had good journalism today, I'd like to see every single member asked if they support that and that sort of thing. I think they need to go on record as that. And then Heidi has got an opponent who did an Instagram or something with him shooting a flamethrower into the air and calling it Joe Biden. I mean, it's just ludicrous. And I want to point out, I think we should point out the ridiculousness. I mean, I consistently call them clowns because to me, that is not someone who wants to govern. That's someone being foolish and not being serious. What does that say? I'm standing in the street shooting a flamethrower into the air. What is your message? I mean, I think we really need to hang this stuff around their necks and call them out on it.
Well, I'm going to go.
True.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Heidi.
Yeah,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
It's so true. And I wish there was some vehicle through which we could ask everybody flat out, especially before our primaries, did Donald Trump win the election? I mean, because I know that all of my opponents to win their primary have to say yes to that. And I know that they will lose the general if they say yes to that. So it would be very good to have that on record, but we don't have the vehicle to ask them all,
But I got to expand on this coming from a military background and being career military. You say clown, Gloria, you're being very sweet. They're effing traitors because I just went after Ronnie Jackson, that son of a bitch. I'll be the first one to curse here today. That son of a bitch took
Give me the door open.
Children. Yeah, the door's open now if you want to curse. That son of a bitch did a video in the state of Texas when we just lost 2 teachers and several children, which Fred Wellman went after him, who's a combat vet, who said, you're a schmuck by the way you're holding a gun, period. It's not even the way you hold a gun. To me, that's above and beyond debating you as a Democrat, debating you as a unaffiliated moderate conservative. There actually should be some type of laws or something that he should, I don't care if he does 10 days in jail or he gets probation or something. That is above and beyond. And he's a traitor, and he's ginning up these insane people to go get guns legally and illegally to go shoot up more people. And that's not politics. That's not debating you. That's not going in your closet and finding some skeletons that anybody on this panel may or may not have. That's being a traitor to this country. He doubles down on lies, not just him, on lies daily. And Heidi, you talked about they need to ask. You see this crazy Carrie Lake in Arizona, who she asked, she wasn't even the moderator, and she asked the panel. And then an Italian lady, I'm half Italian, and she was like, I can't even get a word in edgewise, but she was for stopping, the line. Yeah, and I'm Italian, she says. But that's insanity. That's not politics. That's insanity. And you had Bobart who copied Massey with who does that? Who puts a gun in an underage child's hand and think that's cute on a Christmas card? That's not American. That's not politics. That's insanity. But I got to say this because my viewers know where I stand in this. These people don't go to the ballot box and stuff them with a number of votes. Their constituents put them in these, they vote them in. So I hold these constituents, a lot of them, responsible for voting these people in, knowing what they're doing is wrong. And I don't care how much they hate Democrats or how much they hate independents or Green Party, whatever it is. That's being, to me, and the veterans for Trump, that's being a traitor to America, period. There's no, you may not say it, but I'm going to say it for the viewers because it's wrong. It's wrong. And it's costing people their lives. It's no different than when I get mad. I'm sure all 3 of you have seen, because I call out people of color that run these Republican candidates. This African-American gentleman, I'm not calling gentlemen, African-American Republican candidate. Did you see the video of him where he was shooting people in KKK outfits and saying it was the Democrats? Those are the Democrats. He was just on with Alex Jones. Alex Jones endorses him. Do I need to say more? That type of rhetoric, the Candace Owens and the Larry Elders who said slave owners, plantation, they should have got reparations because slaves were taken away from them when Lincoln ended slavery or however it really worked. That's what we're dealing with out there. And that type of rhetoric, and you're in Tennessee, that type of rhetoric will get elderly Black people or Ahmaud Arbery and people like that killed because they stir up that racial hatred in our country, or they'll get everyday people shot. And it's along the same line. So they're more than clowns. It's disgusting. And you would think that, and I say this all the time, I'm on my soapbox here now, but I say it all the time. I don't care if you didn't like Reagan or you didn't like Papa Bush, or you didn't like their policies. It's not policies, because I honestly believe that they wouldn't have accepted Bobart and Green and Gates in the party. The policies are one thing, but I honestly don't feel that they would tolerate this. But this Republican Party tolerates all of this insanity, and as a veteran, it drives me nuts. And one more point: you said law and order. How can the Republican Party be the party of law and order when they don't give a shit about Fanone, and they don't care about Dunn, and they don't care about, I forget the gentleman's name, I think he's Filipino or whatever, or maybe Hispanic, that has to retire now. He was the one that the guy for the cameras went over and said, I'm sorry, I wouldn't have accepted his apology. He's got to retire because his shoulder is blown out. And Heidi, I know you lost a friend that was a Capitol police officer. So how are you the party of law and order? How can you sit up and say that?
Well, they no longer are.
No.
And I was talking about my military, being raised in a military atmosphere, but then again, a lot of that's Republican as well. And I'd like to comment on the important part here is, with all of this tomfoolery, or whatever you want to call this, extremism and all this crazy cute, all this stuff. The bottom line here is follow the money. Mm-hmm. Who's paying these people? Somebody's paying these people, because Boebert, when she spouts off some crazy nonsense that she doesn't even know what she's saying, somebody pays her. Who's paying these people to do this? Following the money is critical. And I don't know why we're not doing more of that. And the second thing is, you talk about the voters and some of the constituents and the people that put them in power. I blame the people that don't vote.
Yeah.
Look at the percentage of the people in this country that have the precious right to vote and to make, it's just a gift. And they choose, what is it, 20% of the country votes? 70-80% of the country could care less, and they sit around and they complain and they bitch, but they don't vote. So I blame
I had this
getting in from Marjorie Taylor Greene and Getz and all of them. They got in because those people didn't bother to get up off their asses and go vote. Oh, that was rough, right? Sorry. But we have such a precious gift to be able to vote and to determine our government, determine our democracy, and determine our path. And they don't bother. It's
so true. I had this woman at my house the other night, and when she was 7 years old, she left Iran with a stuffed animal and her mom, because the theocratic government was taking over, and she knew she was going to lose her daughter was going to lose all her rights. So she grew up in America, and she said, the one thing I just don't understand, she's American now, but she said, one thing I don't understand about this country is why you don't vote. She said, I would walk across hot coals to vote, and you all don't do it. And I would say because we've become complacent, because even though we've been in wars, we have been living in this country in a pretty comfortable bubble. We go to Costco, we're okay for the most part. And so I think people feel like they're fine, and they don't, that's a responsibility. I mean, I feel like we should make it mandatory to vote. It should be, we should have to vote.
Okay.
We should also have to have civics in high school as well. If our education system holds up, we should demand that civics be brought back.
Yeah.
Okay. Marina, question up is next is, how do we reassert diversity and inclusiveness and end discrimination in our country today? I'm going to give that to Gloria.
Well, that's a tough one, especially in Tennessee, where racism abounds in our legislature. We just recently had the ability to remove the bust of Nathan Bedford Forrest, the first Grand Wizard of the KKK, just slaughtered soldiers who were surrendering, who were Black, made his millions off of human trafficking and selling people into slavery. This bust sat in a place of honor as we walked into either the House floor or the Senate floor, and our Black members had to walk past this every day to go into the chamber. And it took so much work, and it was so long and so hard to remove the bust. It has now been moved to the museum. However, just was it last week, Heidi? We still have Nathan Bedford Forrest Day. We cannot get them to take a day that honors that murderous traitor, and it's shocking to me. But we have to stand up. We have to start getting rid of these laws that institute racism. Systemic racism is real. And now we have a law that we can't teach it in our classrooms. You know, we have got to be able to teach people where we came from so that we can not recreate that and not revisit those things. And this idea that talking about it is divisive, people really have to stop listening to those talking points and go deeper than that. How have you ever not addressed something and it went away? You know, it just doesn't work that way. And we need people to understand that we are all the same, regardless of the color of our skin, sex, sexual identity, all of those things. And we can do it. It goes back to seeing the other as human and accepting them as part of humanity. And they're just like us. Their families want the same thing. They want to be able to raise their kids, send their kids to a great school, have a good job, one job where they work hard and retire in dignity and just live that, you know, my father his generation could do that, but people don't feel today that that their kids can get a great education at every school. They don't feel like they're going to be able to retire in dignity because we're looking at a Congress who's talking about taking away Social Security and Medicare. You know, we have got to make sure that we seal this for the future generations, for our kids, and we can do that. But we've got to have the conversations. We've got to talk about our history. We've got to address the laws on the books that are just absolutely wrong. The crazy idea that you could be in Colorado, where Marina is, and you know, smoke marijuana and be absolutely fine, but in Tennessee you're going to prison. We have got to get this straightened out. We've got far to go because we have too many people working on filling our private prisons than really just making common sense laws that keep people safe.
I got to hit on one thing that you said, Gloria. You said you admitted to systemic racism. And I'm sure the panel remembers this quite well. You had a former vice president from the state that I'm living in, though I'm not here by choice. I want everybody to know that my better half got a job here and I had to come because I'm retired. But when asked that question, oh, Mikey, before the fly, you know, the fly landed him because he knew he was full of shit. Said, there is no systemic racism. The vice president, the sitting vice president, literally said that. I don't know if that was before the fly landed on him or after the fly landed on him. It might have been before. I don't know. I had to look it up, research it. Said there was no systemic racism.
I'm shocked that a privileged white man said that.
Right, exactly. Yeah, right. Of all people who can't be in a room with another woman because mother says you can't be in a room with someone else alone, which is crazy in itself. And the wife teaches at a school, or she did, that doesn't allow gay children. See, that's facts. That's not that Kellyanne Conway alternate fact crap. Okay. Heidi, did you want to add anything to that?
I mean, I would just go ahead and say that I totally agree with you, but also that, you know, we thought this was, I think we thought it was kind of settled when Obama got elected, and we found out that it was so far from the truth.
Mm.
I mean, we just completely started plummeting afterwards. And I mean, I think the bottom line is that we have to elect people who give a damn.
Mhm.
And I mean, I think the problem is who we're electing. And so, and as Marina said, it's so true. If we actually got people out to vote, we would not be electing these people. So, so it comes down to getting people to the polls to vote for, you know, people who give a damn.
Yeah. I got it. Marina, go ahead. If you had something, go ahead.
Well, what Gloria was saying about, you know, you have to address it. You can't, nothing changes if you ignore it. Well, absolutely what's happened to us today. We assumed that because it was socially unacceptable, and those, you know, the racists and the, you know, all of those people, they didn't just die off, they just skittered under the rocks, you know? And so we just let it go. And it's like, well, they're Ku Klux Klan's like gone or whatever, you know, nobody's paying attention to that. We're moving on as a society. We're just kind of letting them stay under the rocks. Well, they came out from under the rocks because this Trump and others came out and gave them permission to come out from under the rocks and just be very bold about, you know, and so not addressing it, not fixing it, did cause it to come back to us.
Okay.
So absolutely.
I want to ask this, that Heidi and Lord, for the viewers, in areas that we know, I'm a vote the blue. I'm an independent, but I vote blue, and I will vote blue in November. I voted in the local race here. I'm voting blue. My saying is vote blue, we're all screwed. But I'm also realistic. I try to be more down the center. I'm very liberal on certain things. I'm conservative on a couple other things. I try to be fair and down the middle. I want to ask Gloria and Heidi's question. In areas of the country, the area and states that we know that there's no way in hell, no matter how much money you put in to a campaign, that a Democrat's going to win that seat, would you, and this is the question, would you rather see a Republican who you don't agree with all on policy, but you might find some common ground? First of all, they have to be a never Trumper. This is just me. This is how I'm wording this question. They have to be a never Trumper. They cannot say that the election was stolen, and they absolutely say January 6th was an insurrection. Those are three things, at least three things. But they may be pro-life. They may be, you know, whatever it may be. You may 100% disagree with them on policies, but they're not cuckoo crazy. Would you rather see a Republican in those areas win seats that a Democrat has no chance in, that goes to, whether it's in your state, that you could actually sit down with? You might argue adamantly, but you may be able to somehow find some common ground. I know that might be tough in Tennessee. You guys know better than me because you're there. But if you could find some common ground on some legislation, give and take, would you rather, would you be up to see that?
Well, so what I would have to say is we had a somewhat moderate Republican elected out of Knox County.
Okay.
To the legislature. He also happened to be gay.
Okay.
He lasted 2 years, one term, and he's not running again because of how they treated him. So the reality is, you know, we don't, other than a one-timer, really, we don't see any of those moderate folks running in Tennessee. That's just, we keep hearing that that's going to happen, but I'm not seeing it in Knox County. I don't think Heidi sure as heck isn't seeing it in her race. So it's hard to know what that would look like.
Okay.
However, I've gotten, since my rights as a woman have been taken away, it's hard. It's really hard for me to think about somebody being okay. I understand being against abortion. What I don't understand is being pro taking away women's rights. I mean, they have said that we are not equal. In Tennessee, a violent rapist has the right to choose the mother of his child, but a woman cannot choose not to have her rapist baby. And for me, I don't know how I could support anybody who's not very strong on that right now. And so, but I've said in the past, you know, and it's okay if our more rural areas, a rural Democrat isn't right where I am on everything, you know, but I think if we want to start getting people to consider Democrats, we need to have them running every time. And people need to get used to them and see that they are the ones that are talking common sense. Those are the folks that are talking about paid family leave, that are talking about expanding Medicaid, because you won't get a Republican in Tennessee to talk about paid family leave or talk about expanding Medicaid or talking about adequately funding our public schools. It doesn't exist in Tennessee. And so I think that we need to keep pushing these conversations. And the only way to push those conversations is to have a Democrat in that race.
Okay. And then the one thing I would add to that is it's a shame that you can't get a Republican, for the most part, that will win a race unless they say they're with Trump. I mean, it just blows my mind. This man caused an insurrection. I mean, and all the stuff he did. I know they give Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzer a lot of credit for the J6 committee, you know, and I do. I believe in giving people credit, but I'm also honest to say, look, they voted against voting rights. They just, if I have my notes correct, they just voted against, which pissed me off, about white supremacists in the military, about kicking their asses out, or at least notifying. They voted against that. I'm like, come on, Liz and Adam. I know Adam's on his way out, and Liz is probably going to lose in Wyoming. I think, yeah, Wyoming, which is crazy, but okay. But I mean, I know it's a tough question, and I wanted to pose it to you because I know that you guys are in a very, very tough state. But it's just sad that we can't even get Republicans that love the country, the way that we love the country, but they're for Trump. They're for the January 6th was just that type of crap. I want to the last question, and I want to ask it of the panel. It comes from Heidi, and I'll start with Marina. You could go first. The question is, what are the things that you are most optimistic about right now?
I'm not optimistic. I'm scared. I'll be honest with you. If we lose the House and if the extremists take over the House and the Senate, I don't know what happens to us. I don't want to live in authoritarian theocracy, but that's where we're going. I don't want to see LGBTQ people lose their rights. I don't want to see women lose their, I don't want to see any of this happen. But unless we can get people out to vote and help us with this, I'm just not optimistic.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, Gloria?
Well, I guess I'm optimistic because I'm seeing change, and I'm seeing people. I'll be really honest, over the last year, we've seen a lot of former Republican Party chairs, Republican election commissioner, people like this become, well, some of them become Democrats. Some of them just are no longer Republican. So that's a step. But we've had one or two that even make the step that they're donating to Democrats. They're coming to Democratic functions. So I'm seeing that, and that is making me feel so much better. I'm seeing, as we lead toward more consequences for January 6th, and just recently in the polling a couple of weeks ago, the excitement at voting was, for a long time, it was with the Republican Party. It has switched, and now Democrats have more excitement about going to vote, according to the national polls, than do Republican counterparts. And then the message I got earlier today that there are more Democrats voting right now in my county than have at the beginning of early vote in the past. So those things give me hope. And I think that we keep talking about what the Republicans are doing with, and hanging this violence on them, and the fact that the Republicans, you guys sort of talked about this. They used to be about law and order and patriotism and fiscal conservatism and accountability. They're for none of those. They can't claim a single one of those things anymore. And we need to be pointing that out. This is not your father's Republican Party. It's just not. And so we need to point that out. We need to show that they're nowhere on policy. When it comes to policy, they are clowns. And we need to go out there and really do good message so that folks come to the polls and vote the right way and put the country back on the path to a strong democracy.
Okay. Question I want to close out the panel with is, and I'm going to ask each one of you this, and I'll start with Heidi. What do you do to recharge your batteries? Because it's every day, and you guys are elected officials. It's every day. So what do you do to rejuvenate, and then to be able to? I know you don't have much time to rejuvenate because 9 to 5 is this. But what do you do to get yourself your head back and to jump and get back in the fight?
I mean, I need to do more of it because I'm kind of like blinders on doing this because, like Marina, I'm terrified about what's going to happen. I'll also say, like Gloria, I talk to over 100 people a day, and I'm hearing from people who have had it with the Republican Party. One thing that we can point out to people, at least individually, is there is no opportunity for nuance on the other side. Like you can't say, well, that Republican's not so bad, and so I'll vote for them because they're more moderate, because it doesn't matter. You're just adding ballast to a monolithic agenda. It's a cult. So if you vote for one person to be in that cult, they are just part of the party that's, driving towards whatever the agenda of that cult is. And that's what the people in our legislature are up against. I mean, I have people ask me all the time, hey, what we're voting on right now, I'm totally against, but I'll get primaried if I vote against this. So I have to. I would never do that, but we have people that's what they care about. They care about their careers. And so to rejuvenate, like I just already went off track on that and didn't answer the question.
It's okay.
I mean, I really enjoy talking to my friends like Gloria and people who understand what's going on. And there's a certain comfort in just realizing, I feel kind of like we, the four of us here, we have an awareness of what's going on, maybe that so many people don't, that it's, it's a kind of burden.
It is.
To have it. And I feel like people need to be aware of it, but it's also such a responsibility. It's like that question that you get asked when you're growing up. Well, if you were in Nazi Germany, what would you have done? And I feel like we are doing what we would have done in that situation right now. And it's a big responsibility, especially when a bunch of people are saying, no, it's all good. Everything's great. And it's not. And so I feel most comfortable rejuvenating amongst people who understand what's going on, because it's not the heavy lift of trying to, number one, pretend like it's not going on, and number two, explain that it is going on,
Okay. Marina, what do you do?
Well, I like to play poker. I like to get a shot of whiskey and hop on my Harley and take a ride.
I knew you was going to say that. Wasn't there poker in there too? Did you say poker?
Yeah, I said poker.
You said poker, okay, because you said that in the show. Okay. And Gloria?
For me, it's live music. I don't get to do it as much as I like, but I do it. And I like to ask Heidi to come with me because she likes music too. But I feel like that's another thing for Heidi. That was also a job. So I don't want her to feel like it's a job for her. But I absolutely, that is my thing, is live music. And there's not a lot of time for it. I need to probably take more time because I don't do that enough. But like Heidi said too, is my friends and my supporters are so amazing. Like every time I see somebody, they're going, Gloria, I don't know how you do it. I appreciate you for doing it. The fact that they understand what it's like to be with those people all day that just hate most everyone around them, that they understand it and that they care and they realize that the hard work it is, it means so much. And so they're like, oh, you probably don't want to talk politics, but I do enjoy talking politics with them because they get it, they understand. And so I probably should do a little more separation than I do, but it is just talking with those folks And then when it's getting out, it's always live music.
Okay.
I'd like to clarify one thing.
Okay.
I didn't mean I take a shot and hop on my Harley and take a ride. With things I don't drink and drive.
I can already see the ad.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding.
Those are separate.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
know what you meant.
Hey, we know what you meant, but yeah, that's fine. I'm glad you, and I won't edit that part out that you clarified that because I want them to see that part too. I'm going to close out and I'm going to give the mic back to you like I always do. First of all, again, thank you for coming on today. These panels are just what they're called, moving humanity forward. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to be formal. And I'm going to start with Senator Campbell. You use your platform. I talked to you privately. I know that you're not somebody that is going to not put country before party because that's not your thing. None of you are that. I've had you on my show. And we need more people that put country before party. Party is important. Absolutely. But country is important too. And I have a problem with any politician, Democratic, Republican, or other that doesn't put country over party because this country, democracy and humanity to me go hand in hand. So Senator Campbell, I appreciate the stances that you take. I appreciate that you use your platform. I'm going to give you a chance to talk about the Congress thing when we close out here in a second and give back the mic. So thank you for what you do. Representative Johnson, I appreciate what you do as well. You don't pull no punches, okay? She's my boxing buddy. She actually knew, for the viewers that watch this and know I'm a boxing guy, she knew who Big John Tate was. Heidi, I don't know if you know who Big John Tate is, but you need to ask Gloria. He was a heavyweight champion from your state, and he was in the Olympics too. But I appreciate that you use your platform. I appreciate that you fight for causes that are worthwhile. I appreciate that you take up for women as an elected official. And Marina, I'm proud of you as well, and I back you. Okay, you were a Republican. You left the party. You're an unaffiliated moderate conservative write-in come November against Bobart. I know your stances because I've had you on for a 360 conversation. I appreciate that you care about women, that you care about the LGBTQ, and a lot of things that the Republican Party, I know you're not a Republican anymore, but the Republican Party doesn't care about. So I admire you as well for using your platform. And you're all ladies that I have a lot of respect for. So with that said, I want to give the mic back to you. You close out with anything you want. And I'll start with Heidi.
Great. Well, thank you so much. This is an amazing show and I watch your shows and it's an incredible service that you're performing to get the word out about what's going on and what we talked about just a minute ago, which is that, people need to understand what's going on. So thank you. I'm running for Congress in Tennessee, which is tough as a Democrat. Tennessee District number 5. This is an open seat. They're trying to take away one of our 2 Democratic seats in Nashville, and we're fighting like hell for it. And I just really appreciate the opportunity to be able to come on this show and let people know that we're here. And if you're here in Nashville, please jump on our campaign, support us. We're all in this together, and we're lifting up all of our candidates here as well. And thanks again. And wonderful to meet Marina and to be with Gloria always.
Okay, and Marina, go ahead.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me on. As she said, you're doing a great service. We do need to make more people aware. We need to get out the vote, folks. Go out and vote. It's your country. It's your neighbor's country. We have to bring back a sense of neighbor, a sense of community again, and care about each other. And we have to, the only way we're going to accomplish that, to bring that back, is to go and register and vote, folks. Go vote. I just appreciate you letting me be on your show and use your platform to help get that message out. I just can't stress enough that we're just going down such a bad path. I don't want to live in authoritarian theocracy, and that is exactly where we're heading. People can put their heads in the sand all they want, but that is where we're going. And none of us have rights if we don't care enough to get off our asses and go vote. So Thank you. Thank you for having me on, and we just have to get that message out there. And I'm at marinazimmerman.com. That's my website. And we can use all the donations we can get to help get our message out. So please give to our campaign if you can.
Heidi, I want to go back to you for a second, Heidi. So on mute. What's your website?
VoteHeidiCampbell.com.
Okay. All right, Gloria, you got final word.
Okay. Well, I have to say one of my fondest memories of all time was, if it's not great enough to see Prince, The Time, and Vanity 6, but I saw Prince, The Time, and Vanity 6 sitting with Big John Tate. So that was a pretty amazing night in my life that I'll never forget. But, you know, please, everybody, you have to get out there and vote. I used to be in House District 13. They redrew a few blocks around my house, gerrymandered me into a fellow Democratic representatives district. I moved into the new House District 90 to run in 90. So we're starting a new thing today, hashtag get to know 90 on Twitter. And I'm going to go around and take pictures of all the new places in the district so the community will know each other. But that's the whole thing. We are a community. We need to vote for people who care about that community. And it is critical, because of what these ladies have said, that we get out and vote this election. So please, please, please follow me. I'm Vote Gloria J on Twitter. You can come to votegloriajohnson.com for my website. And please, let's make wonderful things happen this election cycle so that we can begin to bring back a strong democracy that Americans so desperately need.
Okay.
Thank you for giving me a little optimism, ladies.
There you go. You know what? One more thing, because I'm all about promotion, so you got to take yourself off of mute. Tell the viewers, Heidi, because Gloria said, where to follow you on Twitter.
I am at Campbell4TN, at Campbell4TN, like the number 4.
Okay, and Marina, yours on Twitter is?
All of my social media
That's
is
right.
Marina 4 Colorado, the number 4, numerical 4, Marina 4 Colorado.
Okay. All right, ladies, again, thank you so much for coming on. You know where I'm at if you need me. Anybody bullies you, you let me know. I come after them. All right, enjoy the rest of your day. Continue to do great things.
Thank you.
Take
Thank
care.
wonderful
Bye-bye.
to meet you, ladies.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
All right, folks, my 5th Moving Humanity Forward panel. 2 Democrats and an unaffiliated moderate conservative. How about that for a panel? How about that for diversity? Forget about it. Representative Gloria Johnson, Senator Heidi Campbell, and Marina Zimmerman running as a write-in candidate against Lauren Boebert in CD3 in November. So make sure you get out and you vote for her, and you get out and you vote for Senator Campbell, who's running, as she said, in a congressional race in Tennessee. I support and back both of them in their races. All right? Make sure when you see this show, you retweet it. Make sure if you haven't subscribed, you hit that button and you subscribe. Leave your comments below. I always personally respond. All right? And retweet it as well, and so on and so on and so on. Thank you so very much for your support. And remember, folks, every act of kindness is a little love we leave behind. Bad Brad out. Thank you for watching the Bad Brad Berkwitt Show. Please follow, subscribe, leave comments, forget about it, and move humanity forward.